So in this video, let's discuss the 5 big webinar mistakes that people make that you really want to avoid. In fact, if you can avoid making these mistakes, you're going to be doing webinars that really connect, that really build credibility and ultimately lead to people joining your program. So whether you're presenting an info session or whether you're actually pitching a product, these webinar mistakes need to be avoided. Hi, my name's Colin Boyd. I help experts speak and sell from virtual and live stages. I've coached thousands of people around the world. I've advised the biggest names in this industry and done millions of dollars from stage. But at the heart of this, it's really about helping you access your full potential. That's what this video is about. Let's get into it. Okay, so ever since the pandemic, companies like Zoom have become pretty well known, right? You've probably been zoomed out. You've been sitting on a Zoom way too many times. But I'm not gonna lie, whether it's Zoom or some other company, webinars are gonna be here to stay. And they might evolve into more 3D, all sorts of different things. But I'm telling you, webinars or some sort of live video platform, they're here to stay. Like they're gonna be used for many, many years to come. And so one of the problems is that if you want to use webinars effectively, there are a few things you want to avoid. The first thing you will want to avoid in your webinars, whether you're presenting information or you're actually pitching a product, maybe you're doing a free webinar to sell something, maybe you're a coach or a speaker. The first mistake you want to avoid is content overwhelm. So one of the biggest mistakes that people make is when they're designing their content, they just put too much in there. In other words, there's too many slides and there's also too many words on those slides. Have you ever been on a webinar where it's like 200 bullet points on one slide, or they show a graph and you're looking at it and you got it in full screen, you still can't see it or make it out, and it just gets completely overwhelming. So the first thing you need to do is you need to reduce the overwhelm, the amount of content that's actually in your presentations, so that your audience feels a lot more calm and connected to you. So that big mistake is content overwhelm. The second big mistake is not pre-testing the tech. In other words, whenever I'm doing a big webinar, maybe we've got 3,000 or 4,000, 4,000, 5,000 people signed up to a webinar, I want to know that when I press go to open up this webinar, that people are going to be able to show up, the tech's going to be working, everything's going to be connected. And so I have heard absolute horror stories from people who have invested, tens of thousands of dollars into advertising their webinars, their presentations, and it goes to the day and their tech's not working, like something's not connected or whatever. So you got to make sure you test the tech. The things that I'm looking for is, first of all, I'm looking for the video, right? Is the video working? Is the audio working okay? Now, I would do a pre-test. I would do a pre-webinar on the same platform, but maybe a different webinar, right? And I'll test it. I'll get one of my assistants or something to go through it, and I'll check the video, the audio. I want to check that the slides are showing well. I want to check that when I'm showing my slides, the click-throughs are working well. I want to check that the chat's working, like everything. And even when I start my webinar, I usually do like a little check where I'm like, hey, just write audio or write video if you can see me and you can hear me right now. And it's just like a nice sense of certainty when you're starting your webinar. So the second big mistake is not checking your tech. All right, the third big mistake is no interaction with the audience. Have you ever been on a webinar where it's just like a talking head and they just keep talking and they think that the webinar is supposed to be about them just talking like this the whole time and actually just sharing information with you like this, going through it's like you're like listening to a horse race, right? It's just completely overwhelming. And so there's like no interaction with the audience. So when you think about your webinars, I want you to think about not just what are you saying, I want you to think about what are you asking. What questions are you asking? And there's so many great ways on our different platforms to get interaction, whether it be a poll, getting the poll and presenting the poll. You can actually set polls up before the webinar. Another one is just taking the time to have strategic questions. There's a thing that we use which is called micro decisions. And micro decisions are really specific questions that we teach our students when they're creating webinars to sell. It's part of our Sell from Stage formula. They use micro decisions throughout the presentation to ask questions to elicit motivation, to elicit desire from the audience that will help them to make an ultimate decision of whether to join their program or not, right? It increases conversions a lot with micro decisions. But essentially, you're going to be asking strategic questions throughout your webinar to get interaction, to get response, and ultimately to get resonance with your audience. So that third big mistake is having no interaction with your audience. All right, the fourth big mistake that people make on their webinars is having one delivery platform. What I mean by that is when you're presenting, maybe it's literally just your head, right? As much as people like to see your head, it's nice to have a bit of variety. So when you have, and you might say, but Colin, you're just showing your head on this video. Like, I get it, right? But I'm talking about like an hour-long presentation. If you've just got your head for an hour, it's going to be, people are going to struggle to stay interacted. The other side of that is having just slides. So it's like just slides showing you're clicking through slides and no head. So you want to have at least two mediums happening on your webinars. You want to have slides, you want to have your head, and if you can, you want to have some sort of drawing tool. I use my iPad to draw whenever I'm teaching. You might even have a physical flip chart behind you. You could literally set up a physical flip chart. You could draw it, you might have a virtual flip chart. Like there's so many different ways that you can interact with your audience and deliver multiple mediums. And so the mistake is having one medium of delivery on your webinars. Now, the final mistake, number 5, is having low quality audio and visual. I know for me, one of my best investments, especially from the pandemic moving forward forever, has been to buy a really good quality camera, an SLR, some sort of digital camera, high quality, and a really good quality mic. I tell you what, there is something about having a high quality lens and camera that makes you a leader instantly. Like as soon as you jump on a Zoom call, you're the only one with this crystal clear camera, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, like your camera looks so good. You actually unconsciously set yourself up as a leader when you do that. And if you're running webinars, you're delivering to hundreds of people, you're a coach, a speaker, an expert, and you want to stand out as a leader, you've got to have good quality audio and a good quality camera. Now, if you want to know what I use, click down below. There's a whole list of my virtual studio. You can see the whole list of all the cameras, the lenses, the audio that we use down below. You can check that out, my whole virtual studio below. Okay, so we've gone through 5 big webinar mistakes that you need to avoid, from delivering too much content, not checking the tech, all the other ones that we went through, right? Like you've got them. I want to know what's been most valuable. Write a comment down below from the 5 big ideas that we went through, like not checking the tech, overwhelming the audience, having low quality audio, having no interaction, all that stuff. What's been most valuable? And I want to know as well, what mistake do you sometimes make? Maybe let me know, like what's the hardest part for you about delivering a webinar? Write a comment down below if this has been valuable. And make sure you are subscribed if you are, and click the notifications so you get any content that we upload over the next coming weeks. We'll see you soon.